Welcome to Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. This audio uses AI narration to present our original book analysis. Today we're diving deep into Mark Twain's classic, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. You provided us with some excerpts, and it'll be interesting to uncover the fascinating world of Huck Finn, his journey, and the social commentary woven throughout this timeless story.
Yeah, Twain really throws you right into Huck's world through his unique way of telling the story.
Oh, absolutely. From the first sentence, you're in Huck's head.
Yeah.
Hearing him talk directly to you, the reader, in this very distinct, almost ungrammatical way. Did Twain do that on purpose?
Absolutely. He meticulously crafted this dialect to represent how people actually spoke in that time and place. It's not just a stylistic choice. It's a way to transport you back to the pre-Civil War South and see the world through Huck's eyes.
It's like a literary time machine. Take, for instance, when Huck talks about Miss Watson, trying to teach him about heaven. He says, "She went on and told me all about the good place. She said all a body would have to do there was to go around all day long with a harp and sing forever and ever. So I didn't think much of it." Oh, I can practically hear him saying it.
Right. The way he casually dismisses heaven really tells you a lot about Huck's character and how he was raised. He's more comfortable with superstitions and folklore than religious teachings.
Which I think is what makes Huck so relatable, even today. He's a mischievous boy, longing for freedom, but also held back by the superstitions of his time.
That contrast is important for understanding Huck's inner struggles. Here we have a boy who prefers danger in the woods to the confines of civilized life, yet he's terrified of killing a spider because of bad luck.
It's a testament to the power of social conditioning.
Yeah.
And speaking of civilized life, Twain doesn't shy away from satirizing Southern society. Huck's ideas about outlaw life, gleaned from adventure books, paint robbers as chivalrous towards women.
Right, and those fantasies are hilariously contrasted with the reality he faces later on. It's a clever way for Twain to poke fun at those romanticized notions that were often used to justify violence and exploitation.
What are some other instances of Twain's social commentary in these excerpts that really stand out?
The episode with the Grangerfords and their feud with the Shepherdsons is a prime example. They're consumed by their elaborate funerals and rituals, all the while blindly perpetuating a cycle of violence with no logical basis.
Do you think Twain is making a statement about how societies can get trapped in these cycles?
It's certainly possible. The way he portrays the feud, with its over-the-top ceremonies and meaningless justifications, suggests a critique of blind adherence to tradition and honor codes, even when they lead to destruction.
It's fascinating how Twain uses humor to highlight such serious issues. And then there's Colonel Sherburne, who delivers that powerful speech about mob mentality after he shoots a man in cold blood.
That speech is chilling, especially the way he calls out the hypocrisy of the crowd, those who are quick to join a lynch mob, but too cowardly to stand up for what's right as individuals.
It's almost scary how relevant that speech feels, even today, with the rise of online mobs and the speed at which outrage spreads without any critical thinking.
Twain was a keen observer of human nature, and his insights into the dangers of mob mentality are timeless. It makes you wonder if, despite technological advancements, we've really evolved that much as a species.
And then we have the king and the duke, those con men who weave in and out of Huck's life. They're quite a pair.
They are. While they provide comic relief, Twain uses them to expose the gullibility and prejudices of the people they con. They're like walking, talking embodiments of social satire.
I'm particularly struck by how they prey on people's desires and fears, to swindle them out of their money. You remember that episode where they pretend to be reformed pirates, to scam a town out of their savings? It's both funny and a little sad at the same time.
It highlights how easily people can be swayed by appearances and rhetoric, especially when it plays on their pre-existing beliefs and anxieties.
Speaking of characters that evoke complex emotions, we can't forget about Jim, the runaway slave who becomes Huck's friend and confidant.
Jim's journey is at the heart of this story. He's much more than just a stereotypical depiction of a slave. He's a fully realized human being with hopes, fears, and a deep yearning for freedom.
And Huck's relationship with Jim really drives his moral development throughout the story.
Right. Huck struggles with the conflict between helping Jim escape versus turning him in, which reveals the tension between societal expectations and personal conscience.
The raft they travel on becomes a symbol of freedom. For both of them, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a space where they can escape the constraints of society and confront their own beliefs.
It's interesting how the river itself acts almost like a force for change, carrying them toward a new understanding of themselves and the world. So why do you think this book still resonates with us today? all these years later?
I believe it's because at its core, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn is a timeless story about freedom, morality, and the search for identity. It challenges us to confront our own biases, to question societal norms, and to recognize the inherent humanity in everyone.
And it does all of that with such wit, humor, and an unforgettable narrative voice. We've only scratched the surface of this complex and thought-provoking novel.
There's so much more to unpack. From the symbolism of the river to the nuanced portrayal of characters like Pap Finn.
I'm already feeling inspired to revisit this classic, but for now we'll have to pause our deep dive here.
Indeed. There's still much more to explore, picking up where we left off. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the book's ending. It often sparks a lot of debate. What did you make of Huck's decision to light out for the territory instead of going back to civilization?
It's such an ambiguous ending, which I think is what makes it so powerful. On the one hand, it could be seen as Huck rejecting the hypocrisy and corruption he's witnessed in the South.
He's seen the ugliness of that civilized society firsthand, the violence of the feud, the greed and deception of the king and duke. It makes sense that he'd want to escape that world.
But then there's this nagging feeling that maybe he hasn't truly learned anything. Could it be that he's just running away from his problems instead of facing them head on?
That's a valid interpretation, after all. He leaves Jim's fate unresolved. Even though he knows Jim is legally free, it suggests that maybe Huck isn't fully ready to challenge the deeply ingrained racism of his time.
It's a reminder that even though Huck has grown morally throughout the story, he's still a product of his environment. He takes a huge step forward by accepting Jim as a friend and helping him escape, but he hasn't quite reached the point where he can fully embrace racial equality.
And that's the brilliance of Twain's writing. He doesn't give you easy answers or tidy resolutions. He leaves you with an ending that makes you think and grapple with the complexities of race, freedom, and individual responsibility.
So what do you think Twain is trying to tell us as readers through this ending?
I think he's challenging us to consider what freedom truly means, both for individuals and for society as a whole. Huck's journey shows us that progress is often messy and incomplete. Even when we take steps in the right direction, there's always more work to be done.
It also highlights the importance of critical thinking and questioning the status quo. Huck's willingness to challenge what he's been taught about race and morality is what ultimately allows him to grow and evolve.
Precisely. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn isn't just a historical novel. It's a timeless story that continues to resonate with us because it speaks to universal human experiences, the desire for freedom, the struggle for identity, and the complexities of making moral decisions.
It's amazing how Twain manages to weave these profound themes into a story that's also incredibly funny.
His use of satire and humor is what makes the story so engaging and accessible. He uses laughter to expose hypocrisy, to make us think critically about social norms, and to remind us that even in the darkest of times, there's always room for a little bit of joy.
It's that unique blend of humor and social commentary that makes The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn such a masterpiece. It's a book that can be enjoyed on multiple levels, whether you're looking for a thrilling adventure, a sharp satire, or a deep reflection on the human condition.
And it's a book that deserves to be read and reread, discussed and debated. Each time you revisit Huck's world, you're bound to discover something new.
This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. It's making me want to pick up the book again.
Yeah.
And experience it with fresh eyes.
I completely understand. It's a book that stays with you long after you've finished reading it.
You know, for our listeners who haven't had the chance to experience this literary treasure, I can't recommend it enough.
It's a journey you won't soon forget.
To really appreciate the genius of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, you need to experience it for yourself. So if you haven't already, I highly recommend picking up a copy and diving into Huck's world.
And to make that easy for you, we've included a link in the episode description where you can purchase a copy.
While you're there, we'd love for you to subscribe to our channel. For more deep dives into captivating books, we're always on the lookout for new literary adventures. So be sure to let us know what books you'd like us to explore next.
And if this deep dive has sparked any thoughts or questions, we encourage you to share them in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective on The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn and what it means to you.
It's truly remarkable how a book written over a century ago can still feel so relevant and thought-provoking today.
It speaks to the power of great literature to transcend time and connect with readers across generations.
I think one of the most important takeaways from this deep dive is the reminder that we all have a responsibility to challenge injustice and stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult.
Huck's journey teaches us that moral growth isn't always easy or straightforward. It requires us to question our beliefs, confront our biases, and be willing to act on our conscience, even when it goes against what society expects of us.
And that's a message that's just as important today as it was in Twain's time. We're all on a journey of self-discovery, and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn invites us to examine our own hearts and minds as we navigate the complexities of the world around us.
So as you venture out into the world today, we leave you with this challenge. Be like Huck Finn. Be curious, be questioning, and be courageous in your pursuit of truth and justice.
And who knows, you might just find yourself lighting out for a new adventure of your own. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep those minds nourished and those moments mindful. Makes you think, doesn't it, about the power of storytelling.
Oh, absolutely. And, speaking of sparking conversations, we'd love to hear from you.
Right, exactly. If this deep dive has got you thinking about Huckleberry Finn, head over to the comments section and let us know.
Yeah, did any particular moment resonate with you? Or maybe you have a different interpretation of Huck's decision at the end.
We want to hear from you. We're all about creating a community
of engaged readers.
So jump right into that conversation.
And if you're feeling inspired to revisit this classic or experience it for the first time, you can find a link to purchase the book in the episode description.
While you're there, hit that subscribe button.
Stay updated on all our future deep dives.
I've got so many captivating books lined up.
Always on the lookout for new literary adventures.
So let us know what you want us to explore next.
Until our next deep dive.
Keep those minds nourished and those moments mindful.